Ring's founder will become Latch's CEO after selling a stealth startup to the company. This is a really crazy story that I wanted to share with you guys today. Just a story of change of leadership and how shifting leadership oftentimes is just a crazy situation, and showing how there's a lot of times we have a kind of a sad story in a way, because Latch's founding CEO, one of the founders of the organization, had to step away. As far as on paper, it was a willful stepping away, but I don't want to assume things were happening or assume things were going on, but you could definitely see that the company was going through some major struggles in its growth phase. And really open up a discussion about how, when people are starting businesses and they get to this point where they have to either change or grow with the organization, it really comes down to a situation where are you capable of change? Are you able to keep up with the demands? Because you can't stay in the same place. You have to grow with the organization. And I'm not even saying that that's what happened in this situation, but as you start to dig and as you start to see what had happened over the past couple of years to Latch, the organization Latch, which is a smart lock company, you can kind of see and trace how things kind of slowly evolved and things started happening to where the leadership was kind of, I don't want to say forced out, but there was definitely some turbulence in regards to what was going on, and it was trickling down in the organization. And so without further ado, let's just jump right into it, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But this photo here of Jamie Siminoff. As you guys know, I'm terrible with names, so be patient with me. So he's been busy. He's the Ring founder, quietly exited the advisor role he took back in March after exiting the brand's CEO role. He had been at Amazon since its 2018 acquisition of the firm, and so he has a very successful story. This is back here on The Verge. Ring founder is officially leaving Amazon. So Amazon had purchased the Ring company after we had seen it on Shark Tank. When Siminoff announced in March that Hamren would take over for him as CEO of Ring, he said, "I decided to shift my role to chief inventor." But today's message from Hamren explains that Jamie is leaving Amazon to pursue a new opportunity, while saying the company's focus hasn't changed. And then an Amazon spokesperson confirmed Siminoff's departure, saying Jamie has been an incredible founder and inventor, building a product that is now used by customers across the world. He has also been a great colleague since Amazon and Ring came together back in 2018. We thank him for his many contributions and wish him the very best for the future. So it seemed like a good parting of ways, but Amazon did make a move to purchase Jamie's company, Ring, back in 2018, and I think they bought it for like $1.5 billion. It was a massive purchase. And so very good for him. And since then, he seems to have been busy once he departed. He says, turns out he's sold yet another startup, this time one you've never heard of. The clunkily named Honest Days Work, HDW, has been acquired by Latch, best known for its prop tech smart lock and corresponding operating system. As part of the deal, Siminoff will be stepping into Latch's CEO role later this year, replacing the interim chief exec, Jason Keys. Siminoff joins Latch during a difficult transitionary period. Almost exactly a year ago, the company announced that it had cut a total of 130 people, around 28% of its full-time roles. That is a massive layoff, a massive cutting of people. In a letter to Latch staff, then CEO Luke Schoenfelder, I told you I'm terrible with the names, I'm trying to keep up, explained that the layoffs were carried out to ensure Latch is on a path to sustainable growth. This January, Schoenfelder stepped down, along with Chief Financial Officer Barry Schaefer and Chief Accounting Officer Junji Nakamura. And he made this statement: "From co-founding Latch at my kitchen table to leading to its current scale, I am enormously proud of the products we've delivered for customers," Schoenfelder said at the time, "and I am excited to continue to support Latch's new leadership team as a proud stockholder and advisor going forward." So very interesting that we have a lot of shifting going on in a massive organization. I mean, to be fair, it was built up. This is another one that was built up, I think, to over $1 billion. Latches, I read in another article at some place that so they have a massive organization that reaches a lot of people, but there was definitely some turbulence. So you have your founder, you have all these people. This article popped out at me because I've been in conversations before with founders and executives, and the conversation always centers around, how long do you want to do this for? How long do you want to keep leading the thing? How far do you want to take it before you step aside? And a lot of times the conversation centers around, the lack of desire of getting to that one level. It was when you get to a certain level of an organization, the funness of it kind of wears off in some people's view, because you make a transitionary period where, like this guy said, he remembers founding it around his kitchen table, and it transitions to now being a full-fledged organization. Especially if you're publicly traded, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of you have to follow systems and processes. You almost have to change yourself completely as you transition into that period. That's why it's so rare to see CEOs lead their startups all the way through. People like Siminoff are very rare in that sense of being able to lead it. But of course, his company, he led his into a sell-off into Amazon. But people like Mark Zuckerberg and people like Jeff Bezos, it's very rare to see leaders that stay at the helm from inception all the way into a publicly traded organization, because there is a lot of things that have to happen. There's a lot of changes that you have to make in order to become that. And just to kind of give you some backstory here with Latch has had a very difficult time under the CEO Schoenfelder. Man, I hope I'm saying that name right, because that's such a weird name to say. But it says Latch reveals this. I found this article. Latch reveals more financial statements to be unreliable. Inaccuracies in smart lock startups books go back to 2019. So Latch's accounting inaccuracies appear to be worse than previously revealed. The struggling smart lock startup, said this week that internal control deficiencies and revenue recognition errors rendered audit financial statements from 2019 and 2020 unreliable, Cranes reported. The disclosure comes 5 months after a similar warning by the Tishman Speyer-backed Chelsea-based firm about its 2021 and early 2022 results. Oh my gosh, wow. An investigation by Latch's board found errors regarding how the firm recognized revenue, including that management failed to assess whether sales were collectible and that employees hadn't disclosed relevant terms negotiated with customers. So what had happened was, it sounds like they had poor processes and systems. I have been through organizations with this setup. I have been through organizations that have the same issue, because you go, especially organizations that go through a transitionary period where they transition from being a certain type of startup or a certain type of mom and pop shop run organization, and they want to grow. This one even more so, because it's a publicly traded company. This is a big deal. And it's so crazy that they cited internal control deficiencies. See, what that means is poor processes and poor systems for accountability. And when you have something like that in your organization, there typically comes a massive shakeup within the people that are a part of it, and there's no way to avoid it. That is why we're probably starting to hear about it or see it. The errors and issues are subject to further analysis as the company completes the restatement process, the firm said in a regulatory filing. Latch said it would file amended financial statements as soon as reasonably practicable. It did not respond to the publication's request for comment. The disclosure comes weeks after Latch said that co-founder and CEO Luke Schoenfelder stepped down earlier this month. So this was way back. The firm's interim CFO and chief accounting officer also departed. Oh, man. So the firm's interim CFO, they had an interim CFO in there, and chief accounting officer also departed, which is these two. These are these two people here in this article. The Barry Schaefer and Junji Nakamura. So this is all related. You had your core executive leadership all departing because of their poor accounting practices, and got the whole thing in a lot of trouble. And it sounds like as a result of it, they had to cut 130 people because of those poor accounting processes. So they lost 28% of their staff. Now, maybe that's due to poor staff not doing the proper job. But if you're not properly trained, you're not going to do the proper job. If they're not doing the proper reports, it all leads up to the top. So you have this massive shakeup where, and this is what happens. Typically, founders and people who start these organizations, like there comes a point in time where they have to rotate off, and you got to get someone with experience in there who understands the needs of an organization and its reporting, especially if it's publicly traded. That's a big deal. But it happens all the time. It happens in ministries. It happens in regular companies as well, where you get to a certain point where the needs of the organization change, and they change dramatically, and you have to either become the person that can handle the needs, and you have to orient yourself to be more capable of stepping up to the challenge and developing those processes and those systems and maintaining them. That's the big thing, is maintaining them while pushing for growth. And if you can't do that, either someone's brought in or you're rotated off. And I mean, it happens all the time. And this is a crazy, crazy situation. The fact that, it's like, well, that's one way to do it. You're going to purchase the organization, and then you're going to make the guy that you're purchasing it basically from, in a way, you're going to make him CEO of now the organization as a whole. Talk about a raise. And so that is a crazy thing to have happen. So it says Siminoff's HDW is a platform targeting residential service provides, including drivers, dog walkers, and housekeepers. It's easy to see how it might be implemented into Latch's broader offering, which intends to be a kind of one-stop shop for building management. I'm excited to join the Latch team, which has built an incredible offering that users across the country enjoy and benefit from every day, Siminoff said in a release. Smart, secure access control is not only fundamental to real estate operators like myself, but also to residents and service providers. I look forward to combining Honest Day's work with Latch to build a residential ecosystem that empowers building owners, operators, service providers, and residents alike. He is definitely walking into a situation where the thing is on fire. Absolutely. So, talk about someone who's attracted to making things right, and more power to him. Per the details of the deal, Latch is acquiring 100% of HDW's capital stock for $29 million of its own. The company says HDW's 30-member team will join its own workforce. It expects the deal to be completed in Q3 of this year, pending all of the standard regulatory scrutiny. So there you have it. That is one way to do it. That's what caught my attention. Is so interesting that they bought their company and then moved their CEO into the leader. But that only typically happens when your CEO is experienced at big deals, which obviously his Ring, the purchase of from Amazon to getting Ring, that whole experience and him leading the company up to that level is what attracted them to bring him on board for their organization, to be able to lead them out of this mess, because man, it is a mess. And when you have bad accounting practices, I mean, you're laying off 28% of your workforce. You got to give credit where credit is due. Obviously, the founder led the thing from kitchen table to current scale. I mean, that is a big deal. And it doesn't sound like the organization is too sour, but you don't know. There could have been conversations going on a lot of times behind the scenes when they're dealing with leadership, guys like this. In this situation, they don't want to listen. I'm not saying that's what was happening, but if you got a founder that like leads people into a certain level of an organization, I tell my personal family all the time in a joking way, and I know it sounds harsh, but delusion is one heck of a drug. Like, if someone is deluded in thinking and unable to see their issues, especially when there's a lot of success and they feel like they've been very successful and the success is there. I mean, obviously the person had some level of success if he led the organization to that size. I don't know if I would be able to do something like that. You very rarely can find someone who can, and in that process, and in that success, though, it could definitely cloud you and blind you and not make you realize that there are things that have to change. There's things that you have to do. You are not the person who you are currently is not the person that could lead an organization like that. Then you have to change with the organization. As the organization grows, you have to grow. And maybe that calls for, prior to hiring someone to come in and be a consultant, to come in and show you, hey, this is how you need to get this stuff set up. This is how you need to do this. I mean, that could have very easily been done. It might have even been pitched. Who knows? But you have to be aware of your own inaccuracies. I mean, 100%. There was issues going on. 100%. I mean, you don't have multiple. It's not just one. At first, when I first was about to read this, I thought it was just one audit that did it, but it was an audit for 2019 and 2020 that was unreliable. And then they said also, they had a similar warning about an audit they conducted in 2021 and 2022. So talk about a shakeup for a publicly traded organization with investors. I mean, that's a very serious thing, and it could cause massive nervousness. And so it said Schoenfelder remains an advisor and is expected to collect more than $700,000 in severance, the firm said at the time when he stepped down. That's a nice severance, man. Pay me that severance. I'll be good for a couple years, bro. I'll be good. So, but yeah, so they had to lay off 130 people. So, that definitely resulted in some massive shakeups. And I don't know, it doesn't sound like it's ugly between them, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes. I find this stuff so interesting. And so how do you stop it? How do you prevent yourself from becoming like that? I think too, it's being honest with yourself. I mean, understanding and knowing like, hey, I'm founding this thing. I'm going to get it to a certain point. I'm not so sure I'm the guy. If that stuff sounds annoying to you, if that stuff sounds like it's not worth your time, or that it just sounds draining to you and it's not something that you're interested in, or it sounds like it just sounds like it's not important, let's say, it's like you're taking your eyes off the important stuff, all those kinds of statements, then most likely you are not the person to lead it at that level. Like, you can get it there, and then I think you need to recognize and be able to step away, so that way you step away the hero and you don't step away the villain. In this person's situation, Schoenfelder and these other two executives that they had to lay off, they are not stepping away the hero. That looks very, very terrible. And so it just causes sour feelings across the organization as a whole. It causes sour feelings with investors and shareholders. It causes sour feelings with other executives. And so it just is not an ideal way to exit an organization. If you know that you're not going to be willing to be that person, I would challenge you and say, then maybe you need to really take a look at yourself and ask yourself, maybe I'm not the person to lead it beyond this point. Maybe I need to step aside and let someone else come in and take the driver's seat, because you have to become that person that understands that these little things that you so nonchalantly dismiss and you don't look into. I mean, they say it right there. It was poor control, accountability processes, basically. But if you're not that person to take that stuff seriously, it's going to sneak up behind you and bite you. And it clearly did that here. Having to lay off 28% of your workforce, 130 people they cut. That's a serious thing. That's nothing to bat an eye at. I mean, that is a very massive shakeup there. So obviously the Siminoff guy is doing very well for himself. I mean, that is an incredible thing to have happen when you have a bigger company come in and buy you out and then hire you as their CEO. It's like, okay, that's a move right there. Hopefully it works out for you. Obviously he's attracted to it. He wants it. And so, we'll see how it goes. Maybe he'll be able to implement the systems and processes needed, or at least know the right people to bring on as a consultant or even as other executives to enforce those rules, because you don't have to be the person that knows everything. But if you're able to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, that can work with you, and you're easy to work with, you're easy to get along with, and you're able to acknowledge, hey, you're better at this than I am, and I need to follow your lead in this area. That makes for a great leadership team. So hopefully they can figure that out and make it work, because that is a rough situation to be in. And that the organization is desperate. They're desperate. If they're making a move like this, they're buying it, and you get to be a leader. Like, we want to buy your company and we're going to make you the leader of ours. That's a crazy story right there. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Maybe you are familiar with this story a little bit better than I am. Maybe you know a little bit more going on. Are any of you entrepreneurs, or any of you doing startups, and do you think that you could be that kind of person that as the organization grows and the needs change, you'd be willing to step up to the challenge? Or do you think you'd be someone that would step away? Obviously do all the good stuff, like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and I will catch you guys in the next one.